Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women in M365 monthly meeting for November. We can maybe what do you think? Give them a few more minutes to see if anybody else wants to sign in. We got about 8 people on right now. So I hope everyone's having a amazing November, even though it just started.
All the leaves already on the ground.
I know, we just had people come in and blow down our whole yard yesterday because they're everywhere.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Just maybe I'll just do like a little heads up for next month's meeting for everyone who's on. We don't have necessarily a presenter, but we do have some plans for some more like holiday winter soiree kind of things. So it should be a fun meeting. We're gonna do a little recap of the last year and maybe some games. So more to come with that as we get closer. So, do you want to give them another minute, or are you ready to go, or what do you think?
I'm ready to go. So let me
Okay.
just click the magic button so we can start on. And for everyone who is on the call, hello everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to meet you, and I hope that I would be able to answer your questions at the very end or connect with you on LinkedIn. In case you need to run earlier today, but you would like to connect with me, I would be sharing my LinkedIn, or you can just copy my name and just like look for that one somewhere, because I guess it's quite a unique name on LinkedIn, so there shall not be a problem. And yeah, I'm planning for like about 30-minute time of your attention, maybe 40 minutes. I would be asking some questions, but since it's quite hard to cooperate in such setup, you can answer them in chat, if you will, or you just can think about them. Maybe there would be something that you would like to share afterwards.
Yep.
And
people can
buttons.
people can unmute in this meeting too if you are okay with them doing that.
Yeah, absolutely fine. So I most probably will not be seeing you during the meeting because I have just one screen and I would be sharing that as many presenters do. But I'm happy to answer any questions after I finish with that one. So please feel free to cooperate. So let me find the right window to share with you. And I guess this is the one. So Rachel, thumbs up if you can see the screen.
I can see it. I'm good.
Awesome, amazing. So, well, that's where we are today. So we are looking at the topic that is called Dealing with Toxic People, Notes from My Teams. And I would be sharing my experience and only my experience. I am not a psychologist. I've never wanted to be one. I've never learned to be one. So from this perspective, I cannot share what comes, like what motivates people from the human side, from hormone side, or from behavioral science side. But I'm sharing what I know, what helps me. And even just today, I had pretty toxic meeting with one of my colleagues, and I just like had to embrace all my knowledges that I have and the ones that I'm going to share with you right now. But before we run deep into that one, I wanted to say hi and I wanted to present myself. It would be nice to also to learn a lot more about you, but I guess I mentioned that's quite hard in this condition. So, but I'm happy if you connect with me on LinkedIn. So what I am telling people about myself is that I'm an introvert with highly developed social skills. So I know how to talk with people, but I had to learn that by practice and trying something, and then even finding some volunteers who I can train with to be a better human and cooperate better with humans. I am born and raised in Ukraine and living in Stockholm, Sweden currently. So I'm also embracing Swedish culture. And since I'm coming from the Slavic culture, from the Slavic mentality, there's a big resonance between Slavic and Scandinavian culture. And that also learns me, it teaches me a lot. So in this way, I might have one more presentation on different cultures, but this is the one that we are talking today. It's about people. And I've been doing puzzles for 28 years. There is something that I believe characterizes me a lot as a very patient person and a person with a long and stable hobby. So this is something that I really love, and I have never tried puzzles. I highly recommend you buying a small one, 500 pieces max. Or if you're also doing them, then just like open one for this weekend, because this is the perfect activity for the long winter evenings that we have now, even in November. I am engineer by education and vocation, so I work from the engineering perspective, from the looking for a solution, from problem solving. And this helps me because I work as IT specialist, as a Scrum Master, Agile Coach, Product Owner, and any other type of manager that companies need in their companies, in their organizations. So in this way, it helps me a lot to get engineering approach while working with people, not just like feeling them or having some other background. And I'm also working as a personal development coach. As I mentioned, I had to put a lot of effort into understanding how to deal with people, how to work with people. And that led me to another role of getting education and certification to become a professional coach, to help people to find their values, to help people find their strengths. And that's quite exciting role as well. And what do we mean when we talk about toxicity? We are jumping straight into the presentation. And I wanted to, before I jump into the next slide, I wanted you to think about when was the time when we started using toxic in context of people. Maybe you remember the year. I'm going to show that in a second, so you don't need to Google anything, but made a mental mark of when was that. And I can say that toxic was named and word of the year by Oxford Dictionary in 2018. So this is a period when we moved from kind of using toxic as something to describe chemistry, as something to describe like substance or gas or waste or air. And we went more into describing that from the human perspective, like toxic relationship, toxic masculinity, toxic culture, toxic environment. And this is a period of time where I think it just like grew up and now is used everywhere, even though it wasn't so long time ago. And before that is, what did we call such people who now we call toxic? As they were, I'm sure, a lot of words in every culture and in every language that you can imagine. And kind of the ones that I found really popular is the manipulator, or we would call him, he's a difficult person. Now we would say he's a toxic person. Egoist or energy vampire, that was very popular in my childhood, calling someone as an energy vampire. Parasite, or many, many, many other words that I think were used to describe the same idea, the same sentence, the same meaning, is that this person poisons the lives of others. So after interacting with such a person, you feel drained and exhausted. You might have a pretty poor mood or lower self-esteem, and you might be just like grumpy and just go around and kind of, oh, I feel bad, but it's hard to describe why, just because I talked to that individual who now we would call a toxic one. But is it only about people? Can animals also be toxic? Can they also show a toxic behavior? And I want you to also make a mental note or share in the chat your thoughts if animals can be toxic, and maybe some examples of the one that you have. And by that, I'm revealing the answer is that yes, quite many animals can also show toxic behavior, especially cats. So I'm, as an owner of the cat, sometimes I see that my cat become very toxic when she wants something. But at the other period of time, she's the sweetest, purest baby. So, and I'm sure that's not only cat, but I own only a cat. So I don't know about dogs, about parrots, about other pets that we can have, or even less about the wild animals. But I'm pretty sure that this is a part of a behavior, of a human behavior as the of the us as species, as animals as well. So yeah. So we have a cat named Puma Torncore. So moving on, And for myself, I separate toxic people into 3 types. And again, this is something that I'm doing mentally for myself. This is something that I came up with, so I cannot follow that with any kind of medical research or scientist work or any other stuff. But these are 3 groups, and we would be focusing today at 2 of them. But let me firstly describe you these groups. So first of them is people who need professional medical help. And sadly, there are a lot of people who really struggle with the toxicity that they spread into this world. And this is something that is really hard for me as a human being without proper education, without proper skills to deal with. So this is a group of people that I just accept if they are in my life and try to get some professional attendance to them, some professional help, because at this stage I cannot do anything. And if you have such individuals in your life, there might be your family members, maybe some neighbors, then it's always quite clear that people are toxic because they cannot do in some other way and they need some help, and they do not always get this help in time. Second group are people who intentionally ruin the lives of others for their own pleasure. So these are like the people who are kind of the devil ones. They decide to be this way. They want to be this way. They want to act this way, as I'm sure a lot of cats fall into this category, because it's not something that they do constantly. It's not something that they cannot control. They perfectly understand what they're doing, and they like being this way. They like doing this way. And I think that most of you think of the toxic people as the ones falling in that category. And for me, I would say that about like 30% of people select toxicity as kind of their choice. So they like it and they want to be this way, while the rest fell into the third category, is people who attack in self-defense. People who decide to be toxic, to show toxic behavior, just to protect themselves, just to feel better for themselves in this very moment or with that specific person. And when we talk about the working environment, when we talk about the teams we are working on, there are mostly highly educated people in the teams who have years of experience, who speak multiple languages, have multiple degrees, or even if they don't have these degrees, they are usually very smart people who made their way and building their career, and still many of them are toxic. And quite often when I see such individual, I try to look at this from the perspective from the third category. It's just like, okay, well, where are they falling? Why are they decided to be toxic? And as we progress in communication with that individual, it's usually clear if they are category 2 or 3. I very rarely see people who goes into the category 1, mostly in my neighbors. So, and today we're going to focus on the group 2 and 3, because I cannot give any particular advices about the first one because I don't have the proper medical education. So intentional toxicity is, as I mentioned, this is the people who just want to be so, who just decide to be so. They might be a good family member, good husband, for example, and a terrible colleague or a terrible boss. So they pick up their behavior based on the situation, based on the environment they are in. And what can be done with them? I'm pretty sure that they are, again, the advices that you've heard before, and there is nothing kind of mind-blowing and stuff that is pretty clear. And first one of them is to limit communication. That is the easiest advice anyone can give, and this is the lowest energy effort from you. Because, for example, if there is your friend that you were friends since childhood, but now you see that they show really toxic behavior, and every time you meet with them, you feel drained and sad and annoyed, maybe it's time to stop talking to them. Maybe it's time to end your relationship, even though you were friends since, I don't know, 5 years old. Or it can be some family members who are invited, for example, for family gathering, and everyone feel obliged to invite them there. Everyone feel that they have to invite them, but at the same time, everyone suffers in the process. So maybe it's a time to skip the invitation. or don't update the person that we're meeting at that time, and have really proper time, because if you have such family members, you know what I'm talking to. And sometimes just like it's crossing the line and saying no to the communication with the individual might be better in the long-term outcome. Second advice I can give is define and verbalize boundaries. Also, this is something that is quite clear and quite obvious, but not so many people do that. So sometimes when we see such behavior, for example, if someone calling you by some names or use some intonation or mansplaining to you, for example, that is often a case, people just like say, and then they go and complain to someone else, but not communicate with the toxic individual right here, right now. So for example, in my context, I do not accept when someone is using swearing lexic, swearing words when they talk to me. And it doesn't matter if it's my friend or my colleague or I don't know, someone I just met. If I hear that person is using some swearing words, I communicate clearly that this is a language I'm not going to respond. So you shall select your words while you're talking to me, especially if it's a working context, because I will not respond to messages like that. And often people accept that and just like proceed on. Often people just ignore that. And but I explained my boundaries, and by now I just don't reply to the messages that they said. And focusing on fulfilling duties. It's about when you have a colleague and you're working with them. It might be, for example, your teammate. Yeah. So you were hired to do some specific job. You were hired to do some specific role, or you started some education program, or you started to work in some community as a volunteer. You came to the place with a specific goal and usually with the specific requirements that are expected from you to fulfill. And also a good way is to focus on doing your job fine, because everything changes. And in my life, there were so many changes around that I can guarantee you that everything changed. Even the place that you really love will change in time, because people there will change in times. They would leave, they would go to maternity or paternity leave, they would move to other countries. So only thing that is stable is the change. And fulfilling your duties and working on yourself and blocking all the intervention from other people can actually help you to progress in your career and get a promotion or switch to another team or switch to another role and leave that individual behind, not even dealing with them and completely forgetting about them in some period of time, rather than trying to get them and just like work along with you. Again, I'm talking about the case when the toxicity is the choice of the person, so they intentionally do that. And just like focusing on doing your job well quite usually makes your life happier, because you know that you provide some results, you know that your boss says good work to you, and just like maybe give you some bonuses or some other stuff. And in this perspective, you go to work and you focus on, okay, what shall I do today? What is my task? What is on my to-do list? Rather than, oh no, today I have to go and talk to them, to the toxic person. So this person gets smaller and smaller and smaller in your environment when you focus on actually being professional yourself. Also, do not react. This is the toxicity is the game that requires two to play. So it takes two to have fun for the toxic individual. And if there is no feedback, if there is absolutely no reaction, it's not interesting to play. Let's take cats. Yeah. If you don't react to that one, they just switch to some other behavior, or they switch to some other individual to go and bother them. It is bad in general picture. So if the toxic person decides to select a new victim, there still would be a victim. But this is a point when you are focusing on yourself, because still a lot of people are themselves focused, and I don't see anything bad with that. And this in general helps you to feel better and potentially, again, move to the other place, move from the individual, or maybe leave them behind if you have some shortages in the company. Yes, don't react can be too hard sometimes. And there is something about also training yourself, because you do not react to everything. You don't shout at the rain because it is raining. You just accept that and you adapt your behavior to that. So same as, for example, your boss leaves like a minute before schedule. You won't be there shouting at the boss. You would just check like if you can make the next one. So it's kind of, I understand that boss is not toxic, but it's about your reaction and where you spend your energy. If you spend your energy on being sad, on being disappointed, on being angry, and go around and just like, oh, he did that again, and so on and so forth, then this is the part of your day. You spend 10% of your day on being annoyed. Rather, you can spend 10% of your day of being focused, or just like meditating is a good practice to focus your thoughts on one subject and ignore others. So I highly recommend trying that. And the last in my list is a personal therapy or coaching. So this is also a lot help from that area, and I got a lot of help while I had my own personal therapy and my coach session before I decided to become a coach. So this is something that also helps to focus at the exact situation, because all the advices that are on the internet, all the advices I can tell you also on the internet, because I am on the internet for you, they are pretty much general. But you can take a look at the specific case, at your dependencies. Is it your family member, close or far? Is it your friend or colleague or a teammate or your boss or someone who is reporting to you? So you can focus on this specific case, and it is even better because you have time and space for yourself. You don't have to go to a therapist or to a coach. You can talk to your friend, you can talk to your mom, you can talk to ChatGPT, but it is more important to have the time and place for yourself where you can sit and think about what I can do in this situation, what triggers me, because there might be something that triggers you in their behavior, and you can work on yourself to change that trigger in your life, to remove that completely, for example. But that is very important to have the time that you dedicate to yourself, and not just like dedicate time to toxic people around you. But moving on to the third category, as toxicity as a defensive mechanism, and this one is the biggest one, and this one we are going to start with a few examples. And there is a phrase that I think a lot of you know that sounds, the best defense is a good offense. That is in Swedish sounds like en fel är bästa försvar. And I'm sure it exists in many, many, many other languages, if not the same exact wording, but they're very similar. And I see these as an example also in animals, in my cat or in other cats or in other animals that exist. Sometimes I see that in children when they are kind of stressed, they go with their natural reaction, with something that they will learn, but something that they were born, of just like trying to hide, trying to attack, trying to protect themselves. And this is the area where we would spend the next about 10 minutes talking about the one. I have two examples, and I want to ask you to maybe write your answers in the chat or just like think about them. The first one is Holly controls every aspect of her family member's life and lashes out if anything goes against her rules and plans. And what can she be afraid of in this case? If you can write in the chat, it would be awesome. If no, then we can just talk through that. Taylor, that's a good one. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you guys for sharing. There are some examples that I have that I come up with. So she's afraid of the independence of family members who will no longer depend on her and would just like one day leave her and live their own life. She might be afraid of losing her sense of purpose because, oh, they need me for everything. They cannot do anything without me. They just like need me for every single step, for every single action. Losing a lack of influence in other areas of her life. So, for example, if you cannot really impact what happens around you, what happens in the world, in your country, in your city, what happens at your workplace, what happens at your, I don't know, even local library you go every day, you start controlling areas that you can, and you hyper focus on them. So you just like go there fully because there is something that is hard to control in other areas, or person might be just escaping from other problems. For example, oh, no, 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 I cannot go to the doctor. I cannot go and start my healing process, for example, because my family really needs me, because they really need me for the daily activities. And how would they have the dinner without me? It's not possible. So they are postponing something that is in their life because they are scared to go in that direction. They are scared to let control. They're scared of the family members who need it. For example, in this case, Holly might be scared of some family members who needed her to understand that they do not really need her. And they can consult with her, they can inform her, but they can make their own decisions. And sadly, for many, many, many people, this is their scariest understanding of all, and maybe even scarier than anything you can come up with on the Halloween. Another example is Tiago criticizes every action of his colleagues and denies any changes. He gets offended and complains if something is discussed without him. What he can be afraid of feeling left out, insecurity. So it looks like he got the idea. Paranoid. Oh, that's something interesting. So what I have here in my list is, yeah, this losing the position and status, the feeling of the fear of becoming unnecessary, of again seeing that just like world can move without you. And quite often people say just like, oh, I'm not interchangeable in the position. No one can change me in this role. I have too many knowledges. I have too much power in this company. While quite often it's not true any longer because there are new people coming and learning pretty fast and technologies change, and maybe something that you were a specialist 10 years ago, 20 years ago, is no longer needed in the organization. And there are so many people who stuck in their role that becomes redundant, and they try to prove that they are still required. But in this way, it's not kind of, it doesn't really help the big picture, it doesn't really help the organization to have a bottleneck on a person who would go around and scream or just like complain to every single individual in the organization. So they were not invited, while in reality, they just are not sure that they would get the job tomorrow if there is one decision made without them. And this is the insecurity that they are afraid of. And this is the insecurity that doesn't let the organization move on forward as fast as they would, but while there are people slowing them down. If there is one person in the team, it might have low impact. But if there is, for example, the board of directors, and each of them is scared about their position, and each of them is insecure, and each of them wants to be involved in every single decision, you can imagine the speed of the decision making in that company and the quality of such decisions. Yeah, and also kind of blocking the development of others due to their own insecurity. There is something that I saw in young and old people who who have a position of a line manager, for example. So they are blocking people who report to them because they feel if there's just like if there would be a person that grows under my leadership, that they would take my position, that I would become redundant. So I decide to block them. I will not give them the promotion. I will not give them something interesting task. I would keep them low because in this way I feel high. And this is completely wrong understanding from my side, as this is not how I build my teams, as this is not how I built my career. And we're moving on. I see that there is a conversation in the chat, and I want to ask you to take 3 minutes. I would have a fancy timer here if it can show up. It started, to think about a toxic person in your life and what they can be afraid of. And you might even be the toxic person in your life yourself. So let's take 3 minutes. It sounds long, it is not, to think about who that might be and what is they afraid of. If you want to share, please share in the chat. If you want to keep it personal, feel free to do so. see some people are typing in the chat. If you're not typing anything, that I still recommend you check in the chat because we have some really amazing thoughts there. Hey, that was quite a loud timer. I hope it wasn't so loud for you. And I jump to the next slide of how should I act when meeting with the person who is toxic because they want to protect themselves. I have a few advices, and they are not in any chronological order, so you can start with any of them in any order again. And maybe some of them might be you don't, and I would recommend you to try that maybe even with someone who is not toxic, but someone who you just want to improve your relationship with. But well, let's go deep and take a look at them. And first of them is listen. That sounds really easy. That sounds very basic. And often there is something that we do not do because we want to correct a person. We want to say, no, no, you didn't get it right, or let me show you how this works, or some other stuff. And sometimes it is also a great skill. That is also a tough skill to sit and listen. And sometimes I had to do that. I had to mute myself and lean back in my chair and put my hands on my lap so I cannot unmute myself. And I just look at the person and I listen and I nod and I show them visually that I am here with you, and I let them talk. Because when they talk, they usually have some words that they repeat. And these are the words that you can use to understand what actually triggers them. Because if someone's saying it's just like, no, 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 we are not moving from this provider to that provider, for example. No, we're not doing that. And then they say, oh, because it would take ages to figure out how the new system works. You understand that this is what they are scared of, that they will not be able to understand how the system works, or it would take them time, or they would make some mistakes there. So they don't want to change anything because, yeah, as someone posted in the chat, as kind of, sorry, I started reading the chat and got triggered and lost my thought. People are scared about changes. And quite often when you let them speak, they tell you what exactly scares them in the change. And quite often there is something manageable. There is something that you can fix by a conversation, sending them a manual, having a session with them, or just basically holding their hand and telling, I would be here with you till you understand how that goes from now on. And you have my time to provide you support if you need that. Second point in my list is provide a safe space. So this is also something that let people talk, let them have the time for themselves. Same as I was talking that each of us needs time for ourselves to retrospectively look at how we were doing, how we communicate with people, what bothered us today, what triggered us today. Same, just making safe space, and it can be just a smaller meeting or a meeting dedicated to the specific topic. So we don't have the agenda of 10 points that we need to cover today, and everyone is looking at the clock and just like counting. They're just like, we are getting late, so we need to speed up. Or it can be a meeting without some people, or it can be a meeting with some other people. if this is a for example, working relationship, because a lot of that stuff comes and happens with me at work, this might be a session where I do need an HR just to be there, just to be present. Or I might need some other colleague from my team to provide support to the one who needs to speak. So there are kind of two of them versus me, not just like two managers versus, for example, one developer or one engineer. And just giving safe space for anyone is pretty good advice. And this is not only kind of that you need to have a special room without no windows and other stuff, but it's mostly about just giving them time and telling them, okay, well, let's talk about this. You have as much time as you need, and you are completely focused on them, not looking at your phone, not having any other meetings planned and stuff, or just tell them, okay, I have 50 minutes. They are fully yours. I'm here. I'm listening to you. And then you just sit and listen. And if something interrupts you, you kind of move that completely and focus back at the person so they know that they are valuable at this specific moment and they know that nothing can disturb this setup now. Other advice is to help them understand. This is something that we do a lot with kids, but then we become adults or become grown-ups or become tall. I don't know when it starts, but then we just suppose that everyone knows the same as we know. So we stop explaining stuff to people. And apparently, no one knows the same information that we do. And a lot of stuff that we think is obvious will not be obvious for others. Even for people who you have close relationship, even with your family members, there is a lot of stuff that is obvious for you, but they are not sure every time they are guessing. And often people are scared to ask questions, so they don't want to look stupid. They don't want to step in and ask something that would show that, oh, they don't know what we are talking about or other stuff. And often this is highly criticized in organizations and in the companies as well. So if you ask something basic, it means that you are basic as well. You don't deserve this role. You don't deserve a promotion. So a lot of people decide to stay silent, or I would just figure it out later. I would just go to the next meeting that I have no clue what is going on there, and I would just sit there and maybe I would get a hint of what they are talking about. And this is something that we can also fix proactively. So we don't need to sit and wait till the person comes with a question if we can guess that there are questions in the audience. We can do some, for example, even survey, anonymous survey. If you have any question, please fill that in and we would send the text reply to everyone so we can cover if, for example, we are making the organizational change. Yeah, we can send some text describing, okay, what the change would be, what the outcome is, and how this can impact individuals in group A, group B, or group C, or just like give them a place when they can anonymously ask some question without being finger pointed and saying, hey, this was you who asked this question. So we are kind of secretly writing this down in your file. And then when we were looking for the person for promotion, we would notice this message that, oh, at the 5th of January 2022, he asked a basic question. So giving people also the space, the safe space when they feel anonymous quite often helps. And also quite often organizations do not want to do that because there might be the question that the organization does not want to answer. And this is also about insecurity of the organization. And we're coming back to the people answering the question, not being sure that they would have their position tomorrow, that they are still valuable. And this makes a kind of closed cycle. If we start using some new application, if we start using some new system, for example, this can be of just like, okay, well, let's just provide trainings for everyone. Anyone who is interested can show up there and just listen. They can ask their questions because this is a training for basic questions. This is what we are doing here. So as basic a question is, you can ask that, and you can even have a prize for the most basic question, just like something to encourage people to actually ask, to actually talk to you, or just send some materials. Sometimes you might have a Slack chat in your organization where you just like, oh, I found this article. This is very interesting. It really helped me to figure out how to do A, B, and C. So, and these might just help the person who really struggles with dealing with A, B, and C actually look at that place and get the advice that they did not ask for, but they needed, and you knew that they needed that one, but they never officially asked for it. So this is something about when you think that everyone knows that. This is obvious. This is 100% clear for everyone in the audience. It is not. It is never 100% clear, and quite often you need to describe that, especially if we work in their organization. For example, I work 100% in English. That is not my native, not my mother tongue, and I work with colleagues from all over the Europe. And in Europe, outside of UK, English is not the mother tongue of anyone. So we basically just like speak to each other in the language that we collectively decided to speak. And this has a lot of misunderstandings, wrong phrasing, and some other comments that just comes basically to the language that we all learned, someone better, someone worse, but none of us spoke that one in their childhood. And one more point is to feed them. And that is something that is also quite basic, but this is something that we quite often ignore. And if you think in general at some events, at some meetings, why people invite their potential customers to dinner? Because when you feed someone, when people have food, when they eat together, they feel generally more safe being together. This is why we have family dinners. This is why we eat collectively as human beings, as species. We eat together. And by this time, by spending time together around food, we are bonding. And this is something that if you're new for the organization, if you're new for the team, for example, try asking your colleague to have lunch with you. Monday, one person, Tuesday, second person, Wednesday, third person. Some of them would reject, some of them would agree when you, for example, invite them for the first, second, third time. But this is something about just like having the time between two of you. It's not a date. It's not a kind of some big event. You can just have your homemade food that you brought from home. You can heat it in the microwave and sit at the same table and eat together. And after that, you can see that your relationship actually got a little better. And this is something that is safe to try because you still need to eat. So why not doing this together with someone else? And in the worst case, if you come together, sit on one table, and you have completely nothing to talk about, you can talk about the food you're eating. And one more, and probably the last one in the list, is engaging with them. Engaging with the person who is toxic, who tried to ask the question, who tried to sabotage some decision, who tried to kind of ruin whatever process he built. How to collaborate with them if they are showing such hard behavior, or what to do with them? One of the ways that I'm using, and this is actually something that is really easy to set up and really works, at least work for the ones that I had in my team, is to have a devil's advocate. I don't know if you're familiar with this term or not, but the devil's advocate is basically a person who has a 100% right to tell how something would fail and just like look from the devil's perspective and pretty much criticize everything. Like they are legally allowed to criticize everything. So, for example, you are having a discussion on just like what is our marketing strategy for the year, and you have in the team, and there is one person who is quite toxic one, and you just say, hey, do you want to be devil's advocate? Do you want to criticize everything? Yeah. So someone puts in the chat that someone has this with pride. Yes. But this is the point of just like, it is hard to criticize everything. Like there are a lot of stuff that that person actually agrees with. There are a lot of stuff that he accepts, and people just get tired of criticizing everything unless they really love that. And that turns them into the second category that just like it's better to keep them on the distance. But if the person, for example, I had a developer who was misunderstanding the process in general, and he was criticizing that so badly, he was sabotaging that so badly that there were a lot of Scrum Masters running from their team because they couldn't handle that. They could not understand. And when I joined the team, I was kind of Scrum Master number 6 or 7 for that team that worked together for 2 years. So you can imagine the chaos that was there. We had we had the really long conversation with that individual in the chat. It lasted for like the whole working day, just like chatting with one person, giving them the safe space when they can raise anything they want. And then it was the idea of just like, do you want to be the devil's advocate for this meeting? And that person was criticizing absolutely everything uh, that was there, that was on the board. And then at some point of time, he was just like, yeah, okay, now I'm good. Now they raised everything that was like boiling inside of them. They were just like being able to say that openly. And what is even more important is that everyone else in this setup knew that that person today at this meeting has 100% full right to be such, to show such behavior. So no one was really interrupting. And everyone was just like sitting and listening. Oh, what if he's right? What if he's right? How are we going to go in this way? How are we going to go in that way? Are there any risks that we need to foresee or write down or mitigate right now? So that worked fine. And then when the person just like went with, okay, yeah, now I'm good, it was the general change in the behavior. Is just like, oh, if they are good, we are 100% good, because we were good at the very beginning, just like even before he started asking his questions. And quite often this is just like not being like against the flow, but it's also hard. So you need to kind of talk about this in the team. And I would be happy to learn about the devil's advocates example that I see in the chat, how this works in your setup. Just like having a meeting, I'm saying, okay, well, these are the roles that we have for this meeting, and we have a role for devil's advocate. If you want to be one, just raise your hand and say, hey, can I be one? Can I be just like one for the next hour? You don't have to be this for the whole day, but this lets people some security of go and just like talk their mind out and be legal to do that. In conclusion, well, we are coming to the conclusion, and I don't have anything written on this slide. So there is just a title and a picture, because I don't know what conclusion you're taking from this session, but I know that this is the topic that highly impacts our daily life, that impacts how I feel today and what would be my energy level and my expectations when I show to my working place tomorrow. Would I be looking for that, or would I be avoiding that and counting the time till the end of the working day and just like hoping it's Friday today and I don't need to show up tomorrow? And why I'm talking about that is because I work among people, I live among people, and there is not something that we can avoid. And today and tomorrow and yesterday, this is all about people. Like all social interactions that we have every day, all services that we use every day, they're built by people and for people. So in the especially changing world with all the AI technologies and the fears that, oh, tomorrow AI would take my job, there still would be people. And it is a valuable skill that I put on my learning plan, to learn how to interact with people and to learn how to listen to them and how to explain them information, how to be around them. So I don't hate them, but I actually enjoy being a part of a group, a part of the team, because everyone deserves understanding and peace. Every person has potential. We all have different needs. We all have different heights we can jump on. But I'm pretty sure that anyone who is in your environment deserves to be there and deserves to have some help, especially if they need this. And yeah, I know how to listen to people because I put a lot of time and effort into that. And I also want to help the more people I can, the more the better, to learn how to listen to themselves. So thank you for listening to me by now. I'm finishing with that one. Here is the QR if you want to connect with me on the LinkedIn, and I would be happy to connect with you, and I would be happy to answer your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I don't know if you've been watching the chat, but it's going nuts.
I was seeing a lot of messages, but I wasn't able to read them, so I
No,
would take it
I
as
was
my
like
homework.
listening and typing too. If anybody wants to come off mute too, more than welcome to do it. We got another about 9 minutes left. So it was really fantastic. I think we all have those people like within our personal lives, and I actually have 4 cats, so I totally get it, and a dog. So the cat thing definitely resonated with me. Hannah, come on off mute if you'd like to. I saw your hands up.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to say a massive thank you. I absolutely loved seeing this and it was phenomenal. You did a wonderful job and
Yeah.
the information provided was very, very powerful and the feed them, it I hate to say like it hits something different, but it does. When people break bread together, it makes such a difference and it really removes that almost in a way cold aspect to it and humanizes us, remembering that we're just people at the end of
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. There is a lot of basic stuff, but there is still kind of something that we did before, but now we're just like being busy people with the internet. We somehow forgot about that, and quite often, I don't know if it's a practice in your company, but it's a practice in my company. At the day one, the line manager takes the new person for lunch
Hmm.
because that is the rule. That is just like unless they have something completely crazy happening at this time, then it just like gets delayed. But usually at the day the new person starts, the team, as big as it is, they go for lunch together because it helps the new person to build some connection that otherwise might take weeks to build when everyone is busy and you just like interact with the person for like 5 minutes per day.
Yeah, it's harder now, I think, in like this world of like I work from home, of having that. We tried doing the thing where you sit and you eat lunch together, but we're just staring at each other chewing. So it's not quite the same. So we do
We, yeah.
yeah, it's a little rough. So, but we are very camera on, and I think that's made a difference within our company. So even though everybody's all over the place.
I have a rule that just like usually when people want to eat during meetings, I'm absolutely fine with that, unless it is soup. If you have ever seen person eating soup with their camera on, you cannot forget that expression. If you have never done that, you can do it just for fun. Just ask your friend to eat soup in front of the camera. That's hilarious. But you
That's
don't want this on
amazing.
any work meetings.
I was having chicken wings, so my camera was off. I was not subjecting anybody to that.
Yes.
Mitch, do you want to come off mute? I saw your hands up as well.
So I find events like this really useful because I think when you're women working in tech, it can be challenging landscape at times. And what is it? Microsoft say be a learn it all, know it, not a know it all. And sometimes I think we're surrounded by people who like to believe they're experts, and that can come across as in quite a dominant way, which can be a bit muting for us all. But all I was going to say, I trained as a coach, and I used to, let's just say, I used to label people, not intentionally, but when you make a first judgment and you go, oh, that person's this and that person's that, and I think we all do it. It's in our human nature, unfortunately. But I like to think I've got flexible judgment, and I'm open to being moved away from that initial assumption or judgment quite quickly. But the biggest learning I had was from one of the tutors, and I was talking about a member of my team who was it was very difficult at the time. And one of my tutors said, okay, now if you stop using the word difficult and just believe that that team member is doing their best, and it completely stopped me in my tracks. And I think that's a really useful reframe, even with those most complex and challenging of people to work alongside or sit next to. Actually, if we believe they're doing their best, it changes our view of them, and just that simple pivot can help in how we manage that conversation going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you for sharing that. Because yeah, that's completely different perspective, and that's a lot of stuff that also kind of when you become a coach, you just like become not judgmental. So we are okay This is like the lesson number one everyone teach you, is that just like, I'm okay, you're okay, everyone here is okay. We all are okay in our own setup, in our own world. So there is nothing wrong with any of us. Yes, we might have some difficulties happening today. I had horrible night, for example, today, that I woke up completely tired, and now that is 7 p.m. on my side. So there's completely really long day. But it at the same time, kind of in general, we suppose that just like everyone is okay, unless there are some people who really need some help, some like medical help, and in this way they deserve to get it. So we shall kind of work to provide them the best one they can get.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Does anybody else have anything? Again, I posted in the chat, but I'm gonna take a bunch of book suggestions and post them in the Women in M365
please.
LinkedIn group. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody wrote a very long thing about framing a conversation. I'm gonna throw that up there too, if that's okay. Part of the group too, the LinkedIn group, is to keep these conversations going. It's kind of hard for me to keep up with because I'm doing a ton of stuff. But if people want to like go ahead and move the chat over to there too, it would be great to have some more posts going back and forth in there related to all these amazing speakers that we have. So I'm gonna throw some stuff in there. So that's my plug for the LinkedIn group for today.
So yeah, and I would be happy to proceed with the conversation there probably tomorrow, because I'm pretty much done for the day. So, yeah.
I spoke with my Swedish counterparts this morning, and we did our normal good morning, happy afternoon conversation at 9 for me and much later for them. So, all right, I think we're good. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much for the amazing presentation. This is fantastic.
Thank you, everyone. I hope I would connect with you, and I hope that I would see you again somewhere in some other meetings. Have a great one
Absolutely.
today.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.